We've already covered off the most competitive way to use Slime for the Sky Dragon, and today we're having a look at the Winged Dragon of Ra, the second of the 3 Egyptian gods that we're having a competitive review of. And this is the deck. It is an Icejade deck of all things, which I found to be extremely interesting. I saw this list being used in a voice call with one of our Discord members, and this list absolutely wrecked them. Well, it wasn't this list. We actually made quite a number of modifications to it to make it a little bit more personal, classic, as well as powerful. So we've added in things like the Winged Dragon of Ra, Immortal Phoenix, and using 3 copies of Tidal Dragon Ruler of Waterfalls, we're able to much more consistently trigger off things like Guardian Slime, as well as the various other Icejade monsters we have at our disposal. Not only to mention the fact that it is an easily summonable 2600 body. So there's quite a lot about this deck that I absolutely love. I think this is going to be one of the most competitive ways of using the Winged Dragon of Ra. We have a lot of really good replays, and we had a really impressive win ratio as well with this. I think we won like 70% of our games. It was nuts. So I was a really huge fan of this. It's not the most powerful deck in the world, but it is probably going to be one of the best ways of using the Winged Dragon of Ra. It is a blind second deck. You do want to go second using this because you've got True Sun God, you've got these sphere modes and all maxing out. Your combos are pretty straightforward and linear, so we're playing some board breakers, we're not playing Ash Blossom or anything like that. This is designed to go second and OTK frame 1 with the Winged Dragon of Ra. Some of the replays, that doesn't happen. Some replays we go first and we still show off a really impressive amount of power, beating down top tier decks. So I think it's an absolute blast, and I can't wait to show it off. So if you're new to the channel, if you want to catch this style of content or anything else, of course, that we upload on the channel daily, make sure you subscribe to catch it as it goes up. Like the video if you enjoy watching, and if you're interested in showing any amount of support for the channel, you can of course join us as a member. If you want to follow that link in the description to pledge just a little bit of support to help us upload these videos as constantly as we're doing it. Every little bit we do gets us that much closer to being able to commit full time to YouTube, and that is not only going to result in, well, pretty good life for your boy, but it's also going to be more and better content for everyone watching. But I'm not going to bore anyone here at the start. Let's just get right into game number 1. We're not fading random off-brand strategies today. No, we're taking on the big dogs themselves. We're fading branded. We're going to use the effect of the new Icejade Ran Arginine, or whatever you however you pronounce this word. This card is absolutely amazing and is one of the big reasons as to why this deck works, because this allows you to discard a water monster to summon itself and a token exactly like our strategist from Sword Soul. We're not going to synchro summon immediately using these two into Icejade Gwymir Arginine, or whatever, again, whatever that word is, I don't know. This card is very quickly becoming one of my favorite cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! This card is insane. They try to Ash the True Sun God. We actually use Call By on the Ash Blossom because the True Sun God is going to help us set up a really powerful lock here. It's going to search our deck for the Guardian Slime. So Guardian Slime, being a water monster, is very useful in this context. We're able to use Icejade Tremora to special summon it to the field and then immediately tribute it off for the Egyptian God Slime. Now, what exactly makes this field so powerful? We also get to grab Ancient Chant for follow-up. So what makes this board so threatening? Well, the fact that it's damn near unbreakable. So the Egyptian God Slime means that any monster in your field other than itself cannot be targeted by card effects or attacks, and this card in and of itself cannot be destroyed by battle. The Icejade Gwymir then protects all of your face-up monsters from banishment and destruction effects, which is absolutely insane. So that means they can't destroy your field by card effects, they can't target your Gwymir, they can't banish your field, they can't destroy it by battle. So what the hell do they do? It's a very powerful lock, and you can abuse Egyptian God Slime's effect in a whole myriad of different ways. We're going up against Branded here. Gwymir is, I can say this hand on heart, this is the only card in Yu-Gi-Oh! That hard counters Mirror Jade, which is like one of the biggest reasons I love it so much. So our opponent's going to go into Albion here. We're then going to activate the effect of our Icejade in response to Albion. Not only does it protect our whole board, but if it's used in response to a monster, you banish that card. It is gone. Finito. That means no tribute for his Albion. I still gets to conduct his fusion summon, but his end board isn't going to be nearly as strong because he doesn't have the Albion to tribute for the Lebellion. He's going to drop a card. He's going to fusion summon here using Albaz and Albion to still go into his Mirror Jade. As a Mirror Jade is still a pretty powerful monster, but not right now, it isn't. Not in response to this board, because we're completely immune to it and its effects, and even its attack points isn't scary. It only matches us, and we're indestructible. So he activates Mirror Jade's effect, but he can't banish us. He can't do anything. So he's going to use Albion, he's going to set his Branded Beast, alright, whatever. Branded Beast does nothing because he doesn't control a Bestial monster. We're going to grab Monster Reborn off the top of the deck. Using our Ancient Chant that we searched for last turn, we're going to activate it now. He's going to go Branded Beast. I don't think so. You're getting negated. Well, banished, but you know what I mean. Banishing the Branded Beast. Now our board is undestructible, unbanishable. We're going to go into the Winged Dragon of Ra, using the effective Ancient Chant in the graveyard. Now, by banishing it, if our Ra is tribute summoned, it gains the attack points of the monsters tributed for its summon. We're going to tribute the Egyptian God Slime, summoning the Winged Dragon of Ra, using its effect to boost up to 10,900 attack points, and just like that, it is game over the Aliber. So that is a beautiful example of what this deck wants to do in the face of a top tier deck. Branded is no slouch. The Gwamir is such a powerful monster, and Egyptian God Slime offers such a unique branded protection that it's actually really significant. It's a very powerful card. If you combine that with Arginine, you combine that with the Barrier Statue of Torrents, there's a whole load of really funky locks that it actually brings into play. And Guardian Slime working so well with your Icejade monsters is just the icing on top of the cake. So, beautiful replay. Let's get into game 2. Already getting into game 2 here. Going up against a bit of a mirror match. Oh, sorry, no, we aren't actually. We're going up against Beast of Starfrost. My bad. I'm thinking of a different game. We are going to hit this Monodian player with the Maxi. Of course, we're playing a hard going second deck. They're going to go Scarclaw Defanging, which is normally a pretty scary card. They're going to immediately then link off their right heart into the Scarclaw Light Heart. They're going to search their deck for a card now, and they're basically just going to try and bait their time to make sure that if they survive, they have as much follow-up as possible. Grabbing the right Phobia, of course. So, passing in the R turn, we're going to go main phase 1. We're going to activate Icejade Cradle, grabbing the Arginine from deck to hand. This card isn't once per turn. Why would I not grab another card? We're going to grab another copy of Tremora. We're going to use the Arginine. We're going to discard the Tremora. We're going to summon itself as well as its associated token. We're going to normal summon the Barrier Statue of the Torrent. We're going to go into the Icejade Gwamir. We're going to go into the battle phase, taking out Lightheart. Of course, he cannot special summon monsters other than water monsters now. And our Gwamir is also here. We've got the Sphere mode if we really need to break a board. Our opponent's going to go for Reichardt, and here's a pretty important note about this card. Not only if you activate this card in response to a card, it banishes that card on field, it also banishes any other copies of that card on the field and in the graveyard. So because we're activating in response to Reichardt, we banish the one on field and the one in his graveyard. They're both banished. They're going to grab the Arrival from their hand. They're going to go for their field spell to get Searching. That's totally fine. Grabbing the Scareclaw Kashtira, which they cannot summon. They're now going to use Calarium to grab another monster, the Meek, which is a water monster, but they need to be able to summon it. Scareclaw Defanging then, using its effect, banishing the Lightheart from the grave to pop our statue, except they don't, because of Gwamir. So that Floodgate protection, yet again, carrying us through. We're going to go Arginine, we're going to drop another monster to the grave, we're going to summon it out to the field, we're not going to summon out the token. We were going to go into Qing Ying here, and just like that, GG's. Incredible. Again, the Icejade lock, the Torrent lock, we got the crazy amount of board breaking potential with our sphere modes and everything. It's just a beautiful, beautiful recipe. Let's get into game number 3. Alright, getting into game number 3 here, a bit of a different hand. We're going up against Super Heavy Samurai, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is just going to be the perfect example of exactly what I was saying at the start. Super Heavy Samurai is an exceptionally powerful deck. It puts up just an insane amount of interruptions. I am planning on covering this deck sometime soon. There's still a couple of URs and stuff I need to pick up, but the deck does seem very, very interesting and powerful. It does have a number of, like, complete counters, right? So that's another thing to consider. Going into the Baron here, Peacemaker then going to help them set up another card. They're going to set up their skills then bringing back Soulburner so they can go into the Genius. Now, again, they just sort of loop and loop and loop and loop and loop. I don't really fully know the combos of Super Heavy Samurai. They seem like pretty non-linear lines, and it seems like you can do a lot of pretty insane stuff with this deck. So I'd be very, very curious about seeing what we can do with the deck once we get our hands on all of these fucking URs, man. It's not a cheap one to build, I'll tell you that for free. So they're going to set up 1 Omni Negate, 2 Omni Negates, 3 Omni Negates, as well as bringing back a Motorcycle here. And I believe at some point soon they pass turn, right? I mean, they have to eventually. Okay, there it is. So we have 3 Omni Negates to take care of, as well as an untargetable Borrowload. So we are going to make an attempt at this. Unfortunately, not drawing in the Sphere mode it kills us here, because Sphere Mode would have been hella nice. We're going to go for the Icejade. Icejade dropping the Egyptian God Slime. I go for Furion to try and negate us here, which offers us a perfect opportunity, because now we can eat up another one of their Omni Negates by using Call by the Grave. So they're forced to use Baron in response to Call by. And now the Furion is still going to negate our Icejade, but it does not destroy it, and that offers us a very unique opportunity here, where our opponent isn't going to be able to negate both of these cards. So he only gets to negate one. God Slime going to grab another Ancient Chant from deck to hand. There is the Duel, man, and Duel is what puts us in the ground. We could have tried to go through the True Sun God to get our hands on Sphere Mode and break this board. We were that close to getting the tools we needed to break it, and this is the risk that comes associated with any going second type strategy. That is why you might want to take the deck and adapt it to going first with like the Torrent God sort of Arginine lock, right? The one that we showed off in game number 1, versus trying to play it hard going second. Although again, the board breaking tools are very, very hard to pass up. So that's personal preference. Let's get in and we'll have a look at the actual deck list, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that. Alright, so getting in and having a look at the list. So this is what we ended up settling on when we were playing it. Again, very, very straightforward list, using sort of generic water-esque sort of tools to our advantage here. There's a lot of versatility and flexibility you could do with this deck. Not a lot of the other Icejade monsters are actually very useful in the context of what we're trying to do. You could argue that this card is, and you could definitely make an attempt to play this for more consistency. If you were wanting to set up a play going first, you would likely want to include additional copies of this, possibly by cutting down your Sphere Mode if your intention is to go first. But that's not what we did, so we're not going to talk about that here today. So let's go through the list. Of course, Triple Max C, because you have to play it. It's the best card in the game. Barrier Statue of the Torrent is very interesting because it stops people from special summoning monsters except water monsters, which doesn't affect you at all, right? Because you're summoning all water monsters through your combo. As well as that, you're never actually special summoning the Winged Dragon of Ra, except under very, very select circumstances. So it's not really going to impact your Egyptian God stuff in any significant way. So the Barrier Statue of the Torrent is pretty fucking important, especially going first and stopping certain decks. If you're forced to go first, or you could even build the version of the deck that wants to go first with this card, or if you want to commit again to hard going second, you could drop this card out completely and focus more on board breaking tools. That is entirely your prerogative. I personally just like to have the versatility of going first and second. We have Icejade Tremora, which can basically discard itself to special summon another water monster from your hand. An excellent tool in bringing out Slime, Torrent, and even occasionally Tidal, but most of the time Torrent or Slime. Tidal itself has a couple of really useful effects, and this is one of the additions that we made to the deck, where it can drop itself and another water monster from your hand to send any card from your deck to the graveyard. And Foolish Burial is pretty fucking broken, right? It's limited to 1 for a reason. We've got 3 of this bitch. It also has an alternative effect where you can banish 2 water monsters from your hand or graveyard to special summon this card from your hand or grave. That is very important. So you're basically able to either sort of Foolish Burial a card, or you can summon out a level 7 2600 beater. And there's some utility in both of those options, because we're playing another level 7 monster right here in the form of Icejade Ran Agreen, or whatever its name is. I say it differently every time. Fight me, I don't care. So this card is basically Sword Soul Strategist, which is really cool. It discards a water monster. You can special summon this card and then summon an Icejade token. The Icejade token's a level 3. This guy's level 7 tuner, so that's your level 10 synchro. Now, while you control the token, you're locked into water monsters, so the level 10s you can summon are quite limited. The only 2 that are worth their weight are definitely Ching Ying and Gwamir, but this card is absolutely insane, and we all know how good Ching Ying is, right? So that isn't, it doesn't feel like much of a limitation, but do be aware of that. 2 copies of the Winged Dragon of Ra, 1 of each. If you're not playing 1 of each art, you're an absolute plebeian. This card is absolutely stunning. It is super strong. Again, being able to go for insane amounts of damage, and it's just, it's the Winged Dragon of Ra. What do you want? If you're like any OG fan of Yu-Gi-Oh who doesn't want to use the Winged Dragon of Ra, you're a fucking phony. You're a fake. We got Sphere Mode, which you can summon. I mean, do I need to say what the Winged Dragon of Ra does? You tribute summon it, requires 3 tributes to be summoned. On summon, you can pay all of your life points bar 100 and give all of those as attack points to the Winged Dragon of Ra, or you can instead not do that and pay 1,000 life points to target a monster on the field and destroy it, and you can do that as many times as you have life points to pay. So the Winged Dragon of Ra is a really good board breaker in that regard, because you can technically summon it out off of our next option with a reasonable amount of attack points, or even off of Ancient Chant and give it a reasonable number of attack points without sacrificing any life points, which just makes it a really good board breaker, because you can just pop, 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 pop. Speaking of, we got the Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere mode. This guy, again, requires 3 tributes, but you can tribute from either side of the field. One of the most sort of well-known board breakers, where you can tribute 3 of your opponent's monsters to summon the Sphere mode to your opponent's side of the field. This card cannot attack, it cannot be targeted by an attack, cannot be targeted by card effects, and if you give it to your opponent, it returns to your side of the field during their end phase. And you can tribute this card to special summon the Winged Dragon of Ra directly from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, giving it 4,000 attack and defense, meaning that you're able to summon out this beast, giving it some good attack and defense, and allowing you the life points to utilize its secondary effect. Now, as the Winged Dragon of Ra is special summoned, you do not get to use its first effect for the huge attack boost, but again, 4,000 attack and defense is nothing to scoff at. And lastly, we have the Winged Dragon of Ra Immortal Phoenix. We initially weren't playing this card, but the inclusion of Tidal gives this card like secondary purpose. So Tidal, its discard effect usually isn't as good as its effective special summon itself, because you really sort of want the additional bodies, but the effective Foolish Burial of the card is most useful when combining it with the likes of the Winged Dragon of Ra Immortal Phoenix, because basically with this card, if your Winged Dragon of Ra leaves the field and goes to the graveyard, this card will summon itself back out to the field from the grave. Your opponent can't activate cards in response to its effect activation. It's unaffected by other cards' effects, totally unaffected of 4k attack and defense. That is a big fucking problem. You can pay 1,000 life points, send a monster on the field to the graveyard, not destroying, not targeting, not doing anything like that. You're just sending it, right? It's like the, it's like Dingirsu, right? Pay 1,000 life points, that's not once per turn either, which is insane. Once per turn during the end phase, you have to send this card to the graveyard, but you replace it with a Sphere mode, which is part of why we're mainly playing 3 Sphere mode to break boards. But basically, the way this cycle kind of works is you have the Winged Dragon of Ra, it goes to the grave, that brings out the Immortal Phoenix, and then this goes to the grave and brings out the Sphere mode, and then next turn you go Sphere mode into your other Ra, and continue the loop, right? So that's the idea at least. But again, it's a 4K unaffected beater that can just send your whole opponent's field to the grave. Just this card's disgusting. It's so strong. Then we got Guardian Slime, which Guardian Slime is unironically the glue that holds this whole deck together. This deck doesn't work without Guardian Slime. This card is insane in this particular context. Basically, if this guy is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you can search your deck for a spell or trap card that specifically mentions the Winged Dragon of Ra in its text. Now, why is that so good? Number one, they can special summon itself in your hand if you take damage, so it's easy enough to summon. You can discard it off the likes of Arginine and Tidal, so you can send it from hand to grave easily enough to trigger its effects, and you can even just summon it using Tremora and then immediately tribute it to go into the Egyptian God Slime. So this is another sort of really powerful boss monster that you saw in game number 1. So the Guardian Slime is kind of, again, it's the glue that holds this whole pile together. This is what makes the Icejade cards good, and you're utilizing the additional power of the Icejade cards in combination with Guardian Slime to make the Ra cards work. Then we're getting into our generic sort of spells and things. We've got Harpy's Feather Duster, Monster Reborn. You kind of want to play Monster Reborn if you're playing Millennium Revelation. If you don't want to play Revelation, you don't have to play Monster Reborn, but you can because Slime is awesome. It's entirely up to yourself. That's just what we were playing. I wanted it to be a more authentic Raw experience than what I had seen, but you don't have to play this. So 1 Harpy, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Lightning Storm. We've got double Call by his generic card as well. We've got Ancient Chant, which is your normal search target off of Guardian Slime. This card basically adds the Winged Dragon of Ra from your deck or graveyard to your hand, so you can recycle back Ra from the grave if you need to. And on the turn where you use this card, you get a Tribute Summon in addition to your normal summoner set. So if you've already normal summoned, which you don't really need to worry about too much in this list, other than like a barrier statue, you can go into Ra on top of that. You can also banish this card from your graveyard, and if you were to tribute summon the Winged Dragon of Ra during this turn, its original attack and defense become the total attack and defense of all the monsters it tributed, which means if you were to utilize something like the Egyptian God Slime, the original attack points of your Ra becomes 3000. If you're to tribute 3 random monsters on your board, its original attack points can be upwards of 6, 7, or 8,000 attack points. It's absolutely insane, especially in combination with Soul Crossing. Using this, we'll get to that exact combo later, but using this and this, you can clear your opponent's whole board, and you can summon an absolutely massive Winged Dragon of Ra without sacrificing a single life point. Icejade Cradle. It'll add an Icejade monster from your deck to your hand, whose name is different than any cards you control or in your graveyard. Now, it's not once per turn. However, you basically, if you've already used your Icejade or your Tremora, normally speaking, you wouldn't be able to search those cards again, meaning future copies of this card down the line would be dead. The difference here is we're using Tidal. So with Tidal in our grave, luckily we can actually banish our copies of Icejade and Tremora in our graveyard, so we can easily make follow-up Icejade Cradle very accessible and possible to use. So its only drawback is not actually a drawback because Tidal fixes it. Millennium Revelation is probably the weakest card out of the Raw support that we're playing, but it's still pretty solid. You can send a Divine Beast from hand to graveyard and a Monster Reborn from deck to grave. You can send this card to the graveyard, and then for the rest of that turn, you can summon the Winged Dragon of Ra using Monster Reborn, ignoring its summoning conditions, which usually isn't very good because it's not going to have any attack points, but you can do it, right? And the reason that's useful, and the whole sort of point behind this, and during the end phase, you're forced to send that Ra to the graveyard, and the entire idea is that you're supposed to use Revelation to send this to grave, the Immortal Phoenix. The summoning of Ra off of Monster Reborn is purely so that during the end phase it goes to the grave, and then you can summon the Immortal Phoenix. Immortal Phoenix then will go into Sphere mode and enable another Ra during the follow-up turn. So this is a bit of a bit of a niche card, I think is a fair way of saying it. So if you don't want to play this, I totally wouldn't blame you. You can definitely cut it, and if you were to cut it, I would probably cut Monster Reborn as well in favor of additional board breakers, but the choice is yours. So this card will add either to the Winged Dragon of Ra or any monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. Now that's great because that involves Guardian Slime, that involves Sphere Mode, that involves the Immortal Phoenix. So any of these monsters can be added from your deck to your hand. It also prevents any monsters other than the Winged Dragon of Ra attacking on the turn they're summoned. So if you do end up going first, or even going, if your game needs to go into turn 3, the True Sun God can actually act as a really powerful way of protecting yourself from your opponent's attacks. Once per during your main phase, you can send this card or a Winged Dragon of Ra Immortal Phoenix from your deck to the graveyard, then send a Winged Dragon of Ra from your monster zone to the graveyard. Again, the whole point is triggering Immortal Phoenix. So you send Immortal Phoenix from deck to grave, then you send Ra to grave as well. Bang, you summon out your Winged Dragon of Ra Immortal Phoenix. Call by I've already mentioned. Soul Crossing is very, very, very powerful. This gives a quick play spell that allows you to immediately upon activation tribute summon a Divine Beast monster, and you can use monsters your opponent controls. But if you use monsters your opponent controls, then until the end of the next turn after this card's resolution, you can only activate one card or effect per turn, but that does not include the effect of Divine Beast monsters. So, it's a tight restriction, it really is. But clearing out 3 of your opponent's monsters to summon out the Winged Dragon of Ra to immediately go for game, it's worth it. It's hella worth it. So I would be tempted, honestly, if you're cutting Reborn and Revelation, I would play this bitch at 3. 100%. And then our last card is actually Ice Barrier, which I expected to be more useful than it is. Unfortunately, in this deck, we don't have a ton of ways to like discard or anything like that, so I would cut this card completely. I was a little bit disappointed by how poorly it performed. So that opens up basically 2 slots. If you're cutting Revelations, cutting Monster Reborn, and cutting Ice Barrier, you can play your 3rd copy of Soul Crossing, which I would absolutely recommend doing 100%. And then you've got 2 slots left, which can either be additional board breakers if you want to play, let's say, you could technically play Droplet, but I don't really like Droplet because it's very costly. You want to play Imperm, play Imperm. You want to play Talent, Raigeki, Foolish Burial. If you want to play anything like that, go nuts. Play whatever the hell you want. But there's 2 slots there open for you. I would probably play 2 copies of Talent. If it were me, I'll play Talent. And then the extra deck is very straightforward. The extra deck, the only cards you actually care about are the Egyptian God Slime. So that's why we have 3 of it, because this card's insane. This card, so you can summon it by tributing a level 10 Aqua monster with 0 attack. That's why we're using the Guardian Slime and why it ties it all together. It can be used as free summons for the tribute summon of a monster, meaning your Egyptian God. Can't be destroyed by battle. Your opponent's monster can't target monsters for attacks or card effects other than the Egyptian God Slime. So it protects your whole board, it's indestructible by battle, it's a huge beater, it's just a generic, amazing card. Plus, you can use it to trigger the effect of your Guardian Slime. What's not to love? Ching Ying is a really generic, powerful water synchro monster, as well as 2 copies of the Icejade. I've talked about this card all video. We're all very familiar with what this card does. It is insane. It's one of the strongest synchros in the game. I honestly, the more I play this card, the more I like it. Initially, I wasn't too sold on it. Then we played it in Sword Soul, and we were like, yeah, okay, it's neat on occasion. Then I played it in Monodium, and I'm like, oh, damn, yeah, this card's awesome. I'm putting it almost every single game. And now we played this. I'm like, damn, this is actually a terrifying card. This is so strong. Everything else in the extra deck is just kind of sort of whatever you want. We've got this guy, which I thought was pretty fire. We never actually used him, but I thought this guy was absolutely sick, where he stops level 5 or higher monsters from attacking while he's face up. And during either player's turn, you can detach an Exceed material to negate the effects of all face up monsters your opponent controls who have less attack points than him. He's a level 7 Exceed, which you can go into very easily off of Tidal and your Icejade. Yeah, I really like this card. We've got the Gustav package for your level 10 usage, because we are playing quite a number of level 10, so why not? We've got Zeus, because we're playing Exceeds, and then just generic links. Anemone is pretty cool because, you know, bringing back your waters from grave is pretty handy, especially by your statue of Torrent. It gives you quick and easy access to Torrent if you need it. That's why we're playing 2 of it. But by and large, the extra deck is super flexible. You can do whatever you want. Maybe there's really good cards that I'm missing, and if there is, let me know down below. But for the most part, your extra deck is pretty flexible. Yeah, so that is the whole deck. If you got this far into the video, I hope you enjoyed, and of course subscribe if you haven't subscribed thus far. Like the video if you enjoy watching, and if you have any suggestions at all for what we may do for an Obelisk the Tormentor deck, throw them down below or hop in our Discord and let us know there. And with that, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.